how much has systems been a key part of that sustainability?
It's huge. I mean, without our SOPs and our systems, like it wouldn't run. Essentially, we have it set up so I could bring in anybody, and within a week, they can be trained on about 90%. Now, there obviously are nuances that I still have to jump in and figure out or train my team on. But for the most part, like we have checklists and videos with each item, like click here, do this,
Mhm.
enter this copy. It's really hard to mess it up unless you don't follow the exact checklist.
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast. Nathan Newberry here, your host. I have Jesse Dratch here on the line. He's going to be joining us in the podcast. You're going to be able to hear his story. Super excited for you guys to hear the backstory of his marketing empire that he's been able to build, and really some strong techniques about how you can grow your business with some of these things, as well as really some techniques and principles that really has helped him be really productive in this industry. But before we do, I want to dive into really a free gift I want to give to you down below in the show notes. There's a full free gift of a training that goes over how to build a brand online. So many leaders want to start or scale their online coaching business, but struggle all the time. And so what I want to give to you is a whole strategy of how to do that really efficiently with running ads, building sales, really building sales teams, and really scaling from there. So grab that link down below, my gift to you. Jesse, super excited to dive in here. Right off the bat here, what is high performance? Like, what does that look like in your day-to-day? How do you define that? Jumping right into what would you say that definition holds for you?
I mean, for me, high performance is essentially just having a productive day, getting everything accomplished that you thought you were going to, being able to end a day feeling good about it. So, I mean, we've all had those days where we're at the end of it and like, man, I spent the entire day answering emails or putting out fires and you didn't actually move your business anywhere. The gauge didn't move at all. So to me, that's a high performance.
Love that, man. And now, how do you serve people? Because you have a marketing agency, but it's a unique niche that you have, that you do. Tell us how you serve clients right now a little bit more.
Yeah, so I have a marketing agency that works with tattoo shops all over the country, a few overseas. We do a lot with essentially lead generation, Facebook ads, Google ads, but we also take it a step further where we have an automated system using this cool bot built out of Chat GPT that will actually reach out to people, book the consultations, and get them into the shop. Because that's what we've noticed. You can send people as many leads as they want, but if they're not good at sales, and I will tell you, tattoo artists and shop owners are not good at sales, it doesn't matter. But if we can get them in the door, the artists and the shop can usually close them.
That's awesome, man. Now, bring us back to the very beginning of your origin story, Jesse, because you and I have been doing a marketing agency for almost a decade before I sold mine, and then getting into high ticket sales and then building sales teams for doing millions a month and now helping coaches. But you've been doing marketing for a very long time. You've had some different niches and everything. Tell us the beginning of your story a little bit of like how this all began. How did you start really getting into entrepreneurship world?
Yeah, so I kind of got forced into it, as weird as that is. I used to work construction. I did that from the age of about 15, back when you could at that age, to age of 29 or 28, 29. I got laid off one winter and I had switched companies because I had tore my quad in the gym. And because of that, I wasn't able to collect unemployment. So I had to figure out something else to do. At the time, I was a decently well-known power lifter in the Pacific Northwest. So that transferred into, okay, I'm going to take online coaching, take clients in doing that. It took off way quicker than I thought was even possible, which moved into me starting PR Labs, which was a company where we sold lifting straps, pre-workout, belts, knee sleeves, stuff like that for powerlifters and strongmen. That got killed with COVID. But luckily at that time, I'd already been looking into doing marketing for other companies. So I learned marketing for PR Labs, and that's how I was able to grow it to $500,000 in 3 years with zero experience in any kind of marketing, any kind of sales, essentially on the back of Facebook and Instagram ads. But I absolutely fell in love with the psychology that is marketing, that is sales. So transfer that into a marketing agency for window replacement companies, which we built to about 2 years to $57,000 a month. Hated my life. absolutely hated my life. I hated going to work every day. My favorite thing about being an entrepreneur is, I mean, you work 80 hours for yourself, so you don't work 40 hours for someone else. But it was so I didn't have to go into an office every morning.
Mm,
And I had built myself an office downtown with 3 employees in it. We had a handful working remote. And I had built myself a job working with companies I didn't enjoy working with.
mm.
So um, essentially made this decision to switch to tattoo shops a little over 2 years ago, and been loving that ever since.
And you have your office now at home instead of at like another like an office that you felt like you had to go to the 9 to 5 with, which I think changed the perspective of how you operate some more too. I can imagine.
100%, 100%. Like, it's not good. Like when I had my office downtown, like it's not good if the boss doesn't show up. So I
Mm,
had to go to work every day in this office, which is exactly what I hate.
mm,
And this allows me to, yeah, work out of my house. Or like I was in Belize a couple weeks ago. I spent 3 weeks in Miami, Belize, and Portland, and I was able to work the entire time. I mean, it was a vacation, so I took breaks, but yeah, just being able to work when I want, where I want, and having grown the agency to the point that I have team members, and if I don't show up, like things work totally fine, has been amazing.
yeah. How much has systems been a key part of that sustainability?
It's huge. I mean, without our SOPs and our systems, like it wouldn't run. Essentially, we have it set up so I could bring in anybody, and within a week, they can be trained on about 90%. Now, there obviously are nuances that I still have to jump in and figure out or train my team on. But for the most part, like we have checklists and videos with each item, like click here, do this,
Hmm.
enter this copy. It's really hard to mess it up unless you don't follow the exact checklist.
Yeah. Now you and I were talking right before this too, just understanding about energy, mindset, clarity of trying to like figure out how to be optimal in your life. And you change something up with your routine. Talk about a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for the longest time, I would sleep until 7:30, 7:45, get out of bed, have an energy shot, start work at 8. And a few months ago, I switched to getting up at 5:30, actually getting either a workout in, or if it's an off day, still taking the dog for a walk for 20 minutes, reading a little bit, relaxing, kind of getting my head right. And that has probably been the single thing that has given me the most productivity of anything I've tried. And I've tried everything.
Yeah.
um, but just being able to go into work feeling, having that energy from the workout, feeling refreshed, feeling good, being awake, having a clear mind, is an absolute game changer.
For the longest time, I had dreams and goals to want to accomplish things. But the thing that hindered me from doing it was consistency and a discipline to do what I know I needed to do. The hard things, if you would. And I remember really shifting into the gear. It took me really around 2 years to be consistent with waking up early in the morning, like you realize, and just working out. And that kind of primes the dopamine, the mindset clarity, like you're ready for the day. And if you batch everything together, like I do with working out, reading a book, posting on Instagram, that type of stuff, it ends up compounding pretty quickly of the things that you're able to do before 8 a.m. that most people wouldn't even be able to get to during the whole day. And so, like that efficiency with it, like how much of that has improved how you've been able to operate so far as a business as you're scaling and growing?
It's been huge. Again, going into the day, getting those extra couple hours to work on the business before working in the business. And then, like you said, batching stuff. Like for us, like doing our social media posts, stuff like that, our podcasts, our webinars. Like I take a couple hours every week and I sit there and like I'll schedule out the entire week. Like for instance, our posts, like earlier today, I just spent 2 hours making and putting all our posts into Social Pilot to schedule them all out. And it's just so much easier if you batch tasks together versus trying to have your mind switch between a million different things. Like, oh, I'm going to post once today, I'll post once tomorrow, and then you forget tomorrow. Like, oh, the next day I'll do it, and it doesn't work very well. Our brains are meant to focus on one thing,
Mm-hmm.
and so batching stuff like you're talking about is huge.
Let me ask you this question in terms of marketing. I think a lot of people are scared of marketing, like running ads, right? They're like, I'm okay with sometimes posting things about me and my life online or and everything like that. But running ads, even Alex Ramosi, 10,000. You actually gave me that book for my birthday
Yep.
last year. Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah.
But I got to watch, I got to read that, and Alex Ramosi has the four core, right? Which is,
Mm.
you know, content, post and free content. You got paid ads, and then cold outreach and warm outreach. Those are his four core areas. And I think that describes marketing as a whole of ways that you could reach out to people. But I know some people are like, hey, you got to just build a brand by putting a lot of content out, which I think is very good for nurturing and it will create
Mm.
more hand raisers in the long run. But I see people do this, and I think even Alex Ramosi even talks about this, just the speed of what you can get through ads, right? And then people do it wrong too. Like they spend thousands of dollars sometimes and then they just give up and say, oh, it didn't work, but they just didn't do it right. Talk about some of that, Jesse, of like some of the fear that people have leading into it and what they can actually do to accomplish a really good ad so that they can be efficient in their marketing and get the leads and revenue they need.
Definitely. So I have built in the beginning, at least all three of my successful businesses off the back of paid ads. I grew PR Labs to over $500,000 in 3 years on ads. I grew Window Marketing Pros. I grew InkLink all on the back of paid ads. It's essentially just a shortcut because yes, the organic stuff works. It's awesome when somebody sees your organic content comes to you. They're already pre-sold, but it takes a while. Uh, it takes a while. It takes consistency. Essentially, paid ads is just the bypass to that. Now I know there's a lot of fear in spending money and getting no return. And this is something I was told, and this is something that I am a huge believer in. If you're going to run paid ads, you've never done it before, you need some money to say, if I don't get anything out of this, if I don't get a single client, at least I learned what doesn't work. And that's kind of how you go into it. I hired, so we don't do a bunch of cold email. It's just not something I am proficient in. So I hired a company probably 6 months ago to do our cold email, and it cost me $6,000. And I got 3 phone calls and 0 clients out of it. So I was not thrilled, but I went into it saying, hey, even if I don't get anything out of this, I'll know cold email at least is not the best place to put my money at this moment. So I learned something out of it. But for building good ads, it's really getting a good audience. That's one of the biggest things. You can have an ugly look, like everyone thinks you have to have these beautiful ads with these professional setups. I'll show you some of my ads. They're ugly as heck, but they've brought in clients. So it's all about audience and then split testing stuff, split testing your ads, your landing pages. Like we'll never run a campaign or an ad set without at least 3 different ads in it to test them. And you'll slowly see how things work. But yeah, it can be scary. It can be stressful, especially if you don't have a lot of money. Russell Brunson's a huge proponent of a thing called funnel hacking, where you essentially see what other people are doing. And I want to say this with a little asterisk. Like, don't be that guy that goes out there and exactly rips off somebody else's ads. That's a dick thing to do. But there are places like the Facebook ads library where you can go and you can see what any company is, the ads they are running, and you can see how long they've been running, and you can get a good idea of what works. Like you can see the ads, you can see the landing page when you click on it. It'll kind of give you a good idea. Now, it doesn't tell you the audience, which is a huge part of that, but at least it gets you pointed in the right direction without spending a ton of money on something that isn't going to work.
What would be a good way to start? I think most of the time people are like, I don't have enough time to do it. And talk to us about the opportunity that is hidden behind the not doing it, right? And and then also some like practical steps that they should do to start.
Definitely. So, some practical steps to get started. I would say, again, kind of researching what other people in your niche are doing. Um, and then just spend 2 hours, put it on your calendar, spend 2 hours going to Canva, create some ads. Start, in my opinion, is always start with Facebook and Instagram marketing. And when I say that, I don't mean boosting a post. I mean go into the ad manager, spend an hour or 2 on YouTube learning how things work in there. Um, so you're not going in there completely blind. I mean, that the amazing thing and the creepy thing. Have you ever seen The Social Dilemma?
I
The
haven't watched it yet, but I know what you
Okay.
mean. I know.
Yeah, I deleted. This is what I do for a living, and I deleted Instagram and Facebook off my phone watching it. But they know so much about it, and that is the power in advertising through them. Is they know who is going to do what. They know what people are looking for. So if you can figure out Facebook and Instagram advertising, and again, you spend a couple hours doing it, you'll be ahead of 90% of people. I mean, almost every tattoo shop we talk to boosts posts. Maybe less, I would say less than 1% actually go into the ads manager and do it correctly.
Mm.
But that's a really good place to start, is learning how to do that. And again, as soon as you get that first client from a paid ad, you're hooked. You're like, oh, this does work. And again, I've done this over e-com. I've done this for marketing for contractors, for tattoo shop owners. Like it works for everybody. Anything, pretty much anything.
So talk about like the opportunity too a little bit more. Like I think people don't even realize it as much of like if they put a dollar in, like they can get a big return pretty quickly, right?
100%.
And I think people think, okay, if I put money into some things, I want a return on it. So is it return on investment is the idea that
Yep.
they're thinking, because they want to be able to see that. And they've thrown money away because they've done it wrong. What are some specific ways that you think of that can help people that you know that works, and then most of the time where people struggle with?
Definitely. So I can actually, what I was doing is I was pulling up our numbers for last month. I spent $2,126 on ads. We signed 10 clients, which in the first months, because we do a setup fee, was $8,500 in return off that $2,100. And then we do a 6-month agreement. So that's $5,500 in reoccurring revenue. So I made, after that 6 month, about $36,000 off spending $2,100. I'll do that all day.
Yeah,
I'll do that
huge
all
return.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I've been doing this for a while. We've split tested a lot. You know, we spend $2,000 to $4,000 a month in advertising. But the opportunity of when you get this right is scaling your business at a speed that you can't even imagine. Like right now, my biggest constraint in our business is making sure we have the right people in the right chairs. We essentially have an unlimited funnel. Like I put in $1 and I immediately get $4 out. And over the next 6 months, it ends up being like $1 and $20 out, something like that. Our biggest constraint is making sure that the people are getting taken care of. We can onboard them fast enough, stuff like that. As far as starting, yeah. So if it was me and I had at least like $2,000, $1,000, one of the easiest hacks you can do is go to a company called Coldlytics, and they essentially will scrape emails and phone numbers and stuff for you. And you can tell them, hey, I want tattoo companies that are doing over $500,000 a year, or window replacement companies doing over $5 million a year. And you get 500 of those, which will cost you about $500. And what you can do is you can take that and you can put that into Meta or the Facebook Ads Manager, and you can make a lookalike audience.
Mm.
So it will find people that look like that, and then you serve the ads to them. And that is the biggest hack that you can think of, because that is the strength in Meta advertising. Doing that, and then again, you combine that with going through some other competitors that are doing well, the ads that they are creating, because you'll go through and you'll start to see a theme throughout everybody's ads that have been on for a while that are doing successful through the landing pages. And like I said, don't rip it off, just word for word, stuff like that. Don't be a dick. But in that, you can essentially build ad and then spend the other $1,500 on ads. Again, have at least 3 ads running for every ad set you have going. We do 3 ads per $500.
What do
in
you
one ad
change
set.
in those different variations?
So the first thing we always change is the image. Like the copy will be the same. First thing will be the image. Another thing that we'll test is the audience. Like if we have a good image, we know it's going to work. Then we'll do another one, and it'll have 3 different audiences. And because you can go in and you can, so let's say you have that lookalike audience, you can still define it further by how old somebody is, male or female. Like almost all of our ads go to males, because 98% of our clients are. Like if we're sending it to females, it's typically just a waste of money for us. but you can also target by income. Like Meta knows the zip codes with more money and where those people live. And so you target by the top 10% income earning in zip codes in the US. That's huge. You know they have the money for your service. That's what we do with tattoo shops when we work with them, is we get rid of that lower 50% and you get rid of all the tire kickers, the people that want little banger tattoos for $50 and that can afford a couple $1,000s in a back piece.
So you're an obsessive learner like me and so many of the listeners here. I mean, the way I designed this is for people to be able to walk their dog, go to the gym, do the dishes, be able to listen to something for 20, 30 minutes to really kind of help them be primed and ready for how to build and scale their business. And there's some habits and principles that underline most obsessive people. Many of them is like learning. Like talk about like that journey with you of like being obsessed with learning and growing, that journey in a lot of areas of your life. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I'm always reading a book. I'm always watching YouTube videos. I'm in a paid group, that one that's coming up in Miami, and have mentors, stuff like that. And you can learn a lot of really good stuff on YouTube for free. Like when I started doing this, there wasn't shit on there. There was a lot of trial and error. These days, you can essentially learn everything. But in that learning phase, like find good mentors that are in your industry and are way above you. Like I have two right now that do what I do, serve different niches, but they have the same business model, same price point, stuff like that. And they have over 500 clients each. And they're the ones that I talk to with questions. I like to go like find mentors 2 steps above me. Like I don't, like it's always good to, like you can learn from anybody, don't get me wrong. But I want people that have already gone through the sticking points that I'm going through, have figured it out, and can just tell me, hey, this is the best way to do it, stuff like that. And then find a few mentors, I would say, or people you watch for, like Alex Hormozy is great on building an audience. The one thing I would say with that is don't go to YouTube. Find 10 different people who run ads 10 different ways and then try to do all 10 of those, right? Like find one, find a good system, get good at that, and then go further. Like we talked about earlier, we are starting to actually put time and money into our YouTube channel because we've started to bring clients in from that. That is our next avenue because we know how much money we can put into Facebook and Instagram and get a return on that. And essentially with how big the population is, we can just scale that, not infinitely, but pretty close. But we have that dialed in. So now that we have that dialed in, we're going to jump into another way to start bringing leads and interested clients in.
Yeah, man. Dude, Jesse, this has been a fun conversation. I hope people got to learn a few different things of how important it is to be a high performer, dial in some of those disciplines, be obsessive about learning. The way I think about this too, just for the audience here, is theme your focus. So there's knowledge to be had everywhere, but what you need to focus on, if you don't have enough leads and you don't have enough revenue, figure out how to do ads, right? Figure out how to do sales. And if you're struggling there, go find a job doing sales. That's going to be a skill that you're always going to learn. That's where I learned a lot about sales. And then it's also an overlap with marketing too, because if you know how to do that well, not in a manipulative way, but just understanding how human behavior works, you're also going to really learn a lot in marketing. So that's why I want Jesse to be on this podcast, so you can really learn a lot of expertise to do that. Go follow him, go connect with him. I'm going to put his links down below in the show notes. I also have down in the show notes that training that's going to be super helpful for you to build that brand, doing sales and marketing. That's going to be super helpful for you. Jesse, super thankful for your being on the podcast. I think, where can we find you most? And I'll put everything down in the show notes.
So our Instagram is Inklink Marketing, and then our YouTube is just Inklink.
Okay.
We also have a podcast, Tattoo Marketing Secrets. And that's one more thing really quick. If you don't have a podcast, create a podcast.
Yeah.
We get so many clients from that. We put very little money into it. And then just consistency on it. Like 97%, I think it was 97% of people will start a podcast and then don't get past episode 10.
Right.
We didn't get our first client until episode, it was either 17 or 27. We're on like 65 now, and we get clients from it every week. It is the easiest, cheapest thing you can do.
Podcast is huge. Definitely start one if you haven't.
Yep, 100%.
Well, thanks again, Jesse. Again, we'll put all those things down in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll check with you in the next episode.